Let's be real for a second. Most of the financial advice online is soft, it's generic, and it ignores the math. Now, you've probably heard this before. Just save 10% and you'll be fine. But here's the problem. If your goal is to retire at 65, that probably works. But what if your goal is in your 50s? That advice will fail you. And not slowly. It will fail you right at the finish line. Now, here's what most people don't understand. Retirement isn't just about how much you save. It's about where each dollar goes first. And that's what we call the sequence of savings. This idea came directly from one of you. Because here's the truth. Your income sets your starting point, but your spending determines if you ever finish. And today we're going to prove it. We're going to walk through 4 real income levels. Before we talk strategy, we have to talk about the real problem. It's the gap, the time between when you left your job and your traditional retirement accounts begin. And this is where most early retirement plans start to fall apart. If you retire at 55, your retirement accounts are still locked. The government says come back at 59 and a half. And if you don't, you pay a 10% penalty. So for the sake of argument, we're going to set aside the rule of 55 and the 72T. Now the question becomes, how do you survive those gap years? That's where your bridge fund comes in. And if you don't build it, early retirement simply doesn't work. Let's take a look at real numbers. So we use the average US spending data. Here's what it looks like. A $45,000 earner spends about $35,000 a year. And someone who earns $120,000 spends about $90,000 a year. Now, at first glance, that doesn't seem shocking. But here's what matters. It's the percentage. The lower your income, the more of it gets eaten by survival. The higher your income, the more room you have to build freedom. But here's the trap. Most people don't keep that gap. They spend it. They get bigger houses, better cars, and more subscriptions. And then suddenly, that $120,000 life feels just as tight as a $45,000 life. So here's the rule. Future you is the most important bill. You don't save what's left over. You spend what's left over. All right, now let's build this the right way. Where does that first dollar go? It goes to the 401k match. This is non-negotiable. If your employer offers a match and you're not taking it, you are literally turning down free money. This is a 100% return on day one. You don't need to max it yet. Just contribute enough to get the full match. And here's where many people go wrong. They either skip this step or they jump straight to investing without a plan. That's how you lose years. And once you get the match, you pivot. Now you go to the Roth IRA. And in 2026, that's $7,500 per year. And this matters because with a Roth, you pay taxes now, but it grows tax-free forever. For many people, especially at $45,000 or $60,000 a year, this is where the money starts to run out. And that's okay, because even this alone puts you ahead of most people. But if you're earning $80,000, $100,000, or $120,000 a year, you're not done, not even close. This is the step that almost nobody talks about, and it's the reason that most early retirements fail. This is your bridge fund. There's no age restrictions and no penalties. This is the money that gets you from 55 to 60. But here's where it gets interesting. This is also where taxes matter. When you invest in a brokerage account, you can earn dividends, and the IRS wants a cut of that. But not all income is taxed the same way. There are two types. There's ordinary income, like your paycheck, and then there's qualified income, like certain dividends. And here's the advantage. Most U.S. stock dividends are qualified, which means instead of being taxed at 22 or 24%, they are taxed at 0 or 15 for most people. Now let's run this through reality. We've modeled this over 30 years at a 7% return. And I'm also going to add what's being invested and where. So we're going to start with the $45,000 earner. At this level, the focus is on building consistency. They're contributing enough to get the 401k match, about $2,000 per year, and adding what they can to a Roth IRA, around $2,000 a year. So that equals to about $4,000 invested each year. After 30 years at 7%, that grows to about $377,000. Now, this may not fully fund early retirement at 55 on its own, but it builds a strong base. And over time, even small increases in savings can change this outcome. And this is where the shift happens, not in income, but in control. Now let's look at the $80,000 earner. Here is where we start to see a little more flexibility. They're getting the full 401k match, about $4,800 per year. And they are maxing out a Roth IRA at $7,500. So that's about $12,300 invested each year. After 30 years at 7%, that grows to about $1.16 million. At this level, the plan is close. And this is where small decisions start to matter a lot. Even $300 to $400 per month into a brokerage account begins to build that bridge for early retirement. Now, the $120,000 earner. This is where the full sequence is working. They're getting the 401k match, around $7,200 per year. They're maxing out the Roth IRA at $7,500 a year and adding about $5,000 into a brokerage account. That's roughly $19,700 invested each year. After 30 years at 7%, that grows to about $1.86 million. And here's the key point. This outcome isn't just about income. It's about maintaining a gap between income and spending and consistently directing that gap into investments. So when you look at these paths, this isn't about income alone. It's about how much of your income you keep and invest and where you put it. Because a $45,000 earner who increases their savings rate over time can close that gap significantly, versus a $120,000 earner who spends everything can fall behind quickly. Remember that early retirement isn't a fixed number. It's built year by year through your consistent decisions. Here's the part that no one really wants to hear. That $1,000 a month truck payment, it's not just $12,000 a year. Over 30 years, that decision costs you over $1 million. That's the difference between working until 65 or walking away at 55. Because at 55, nobody says, I wish I had bought a nicer car. They say, I'm glad I don't have to go to work tomorrow. One last thing before we go. If you want to understand exactly how much you need in that bridge fund and how to legally access your money earlier, stay tuned and subscribe because we will be covering that in future videos. And if this kind of real, no-hype financial breakdown helps you, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. It really does help us reach more people who need this. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you in the next video.